Welcome to the 128th season of the Canadian Club Toronto, Canada's Podium. For over a century, this platform has been a gathering place for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to discuss the most pressing issues of our time.
We've been having important discussions and debates around this podium in this country for well over a century. I call this a historic podium of record.
Our club's always been a forum for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to command attention to the issues of our time.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts, and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Van Biesen, Canadian Club President and your host for today. A warm welcome to everyone joining us online. For more than 60 years, OMERS has delivered retirement security for over 500,000 Ontario municipal employees. With a global team and a diverse investment portfolio that tops $138 billion, OMERS operates on a massive scale. Leading this organization is a president and CEO who, despite current economic and political challenges, remains deeply committed to a strong future for its members and for Canada. Canadian Club Toronto believes in the importance of fostering that same sense of confidence, especially now. We're dedicated to bringing speakers to this podium who can offer meaningful insights to our members and guests and for Canada. And today we have an exceptional speaker who can do just that. Now, our ability to bring you these kinds of speakers is due to the support of our sponsors. Today's event is being generously sponsored by Bruce Power, KPMG, RBC Capital Markets, and Torys LLP. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for your support. We are also grateful for the season-long sponsorship by the Canadian Bankers Association and the support of Air Canada, our official airline sponsor. And finally, but importantly, thank you also to Canada's Forest Trust Corporation, who works with us to offset our carbon footprint through its planting of smart forests. Today, I am very pleased to welcome students from the Rotman School of Management, thanks to the generosity of Bruce Power, and I look forward to the questions coming from that table. Now, let me quickly share some club business with you. I invite all of you to visit our website at canadianclub.org, where you will find event and membership information, and we also have a great on-demand feature in case you've missed any past events. I also encourage you to share information about today's events on your favorite social media platforms, because we love to spread the news. Now, I am fortunate to be moderating today's event, and I welcome your questions. So for those in the room, there are Q&A questions on the, Q questions on the table, and pens. We do it old school here, so please fill out your questions, and they will be brought to me at the stage. And for those who are online, please hit the red Q&A button on the right side of your screen when we open the door for questions. And at this time, I would like to call on James Skongak, Chief Operating Officer of Bruce Power, to deliver the introduction of our distinguished guest.
Great. Thanks very much for allowing Bruce Power to participate in today's event. Really looking forward to Blake's commentary. As many of you in the room may know, Bruce Power, we provide about a third of Ontario's electricity, and we're one of the leading producers of life-saving medical isotopes around the world. We have a $20 billion investment program currently underway on our site, And OMERS is a 50% owner in Bruce Power. So if you do the quick math, there's 10 billion reasons why we're here today, Blake. You know, one of the things that when we talk to workers at Bruce Power who are really proud of the work that they do every single day, one of the things that we often say is that the only rule in economics that I think that really matters, or at least is consistent, and that is, and I learned this from actually a leader in Ontario's building and construction trade unions, and the lesson goes: nobody spends, nobody works. The key to putting families and communities to work is for people to make investment decisions in our infrastructure, in our communities, and across Canada. And you know, I always say, I talk to my daughter about this, that, you know, I feel extraordinarily privileged. I grew up in a small town called Port Elgin, and I always say that the community and the province and country that I've been able to grow up in, I think we live in the greatest country in the world. We live in the country we live in, and I've had the life that I've had because of decisions people made in the 1970s and the 80s around investing in infrastructure, investing in communities. And frankly, for many, many decades in Canada and Ontario, we've harvested a lot of that infrastructure. And that's really where I think the OMERS strategy and the OMERS role is so important. They clearly have a role to make sure they protect people's pensions. People work their entire lives with the promise of a pension, and we should be exceptionally proud of that. And Blake and Bob and the team at OMERS, they are the stewards of that. So when you hear people say how a pension plan should run, where they invest their money, I always remind people that it's not the government's money, it's pensioners' money. And Blake is a fierce defender of that money. But in addition to ensuring there is a future for pensioners and pensions to be paid at the end of a long, successful career of the hundreds of thousands of people that Blake and his team represent, they make investments in Canada. So this year, Bruce Power will invest $3 billion in Canada. As I said, 50% of that from OMERS, $20 billion in our overall investment program. 95 cents of every dollar of that is spent in Canada. And that's what Made in Canada is all about. So I know there's a bit of a Bruce Power commercial in there, and that's okay. When you're the sponsor, you can say whatever the heck you want. But I wouldn't be able to say the commercial without the support of OMERS, and I think that's really important. So there's people at work because of the work of the man you're going to hear. The second thing I want to leave you with, and you all know Blake, so I didn't want to do a reading of Blake's bio, because if you're here, it's because you know Blake, and you have probably a very special understanding of Blake that probably applies to you and what you do. But one of the final thoughts I want to leave you with, I thought it was the best way to sort of introduce Blake, is a number of weeks ago, Blake delivered a letter to Canada, I think it was called, Blake, at the Toronto Region Board of Trade. I see Giles here. And I have to say, the next day when I read the letter, I actually sent it to all of our employees at Bruce Power, because I said, it doesn't matter what your job is, everybody can make a choice to be a leader with whatever they're doing. It doesn't matter whether they're a maintainer, an executive, an engineer, they can make a choice to be a leader. And really what in Blake's letter to Canada was making the choice to be a leader and making a choice to be a leader led by Canadian values. And there's two portions of the letter that I really want to share with everybody, because I think it's really the best way of introducing Blake. And the statement goes, drawing on my dad's favorite word, by the way, I hope I have the energy of Blake's dad when I'm 60, not 90. Drawing on my dad's favorite word, this is a time for finishative, which by the way is a word I'm going to steal now. Getting things done. We all have a job to do. Let's simply focus on the things that we can control or influence. Our businesses, our people, this great city, our communities, and our families. Let's all set ambitious but real priorities and execute with finishative. When we are old and gray and perhaps talking to our grandkids about their grandkids, we need to know in our hearts that in this moment of great need, we did the very best. And he goes on to end the letter with saying, we are on your team, Canada, and when we play to win together, I don't care what people hear from TV screens, social media, rude taunts and threats, whispers or drunken yells. Nobody can touch us. Let's not look back. Let's look forward with strength and dare to lead. Those are the words of Blake Hutcheson, our guest speaker this afternoon. Blake, I'd like to welcome you to the podium.
Right there.
He's a good boy. And James, that wasn't a small advertisement for Bruce. And my 98-year-old father would be here, except he's in Alberta with one of his girlfriends. And he said to send his best to the room. He does tend to steal the show when we do drag him out. But I think he's having more fun out at Lake Louise. But he says hello to many of you in this room. Tanya.
Blake, welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome to Canada's Podium. 2 quick acknowledgements. A little bird told me that we should all wish you happy birthday.
Yeah, don't remind me.
That's better than not having birthdays.
That's true.
Right? So happy birthday. I know we're a couple days late. And the second is this is your 6th time here at the Canadian Club. So thank you for being here 6 times.
Thank you.
And and like, maybe we'll start there. What are 6 times? I don't even know what that dates back to, but with some reflections over that
It's
time?
6 times. Well, first of all, thank you, Canadian Club. Being asked once is an honor. Being asked 6 is a true honor. And the older I get, the more I appreciate these late-dated ones, because there will be fewer of them in the ongoing future than there are. And I wouldn't be asked if I didn't have the privilege of running OMERS. That's why I'm in the room. It's an unbelievable opportunity of a lifetime to give back to OMERS, 640,000 people. When we make good decisions, 1 out of 11 households in the province of Ontario benefit from it, so it's the most meaningful work of my life. So I'm here because of that, but I'm here because this club has asked. And like many of you, I was Googling last night, in fact, Canadian Club. So when you pull up Canadian Club, the first thing you notice, it's better known as CC. It's a whiskey that was found in 1858 by Hiram Walker. Happened to be my mother's favorite choice. So just so Canadian Club doesn't get too cocky, it's behind the rye in the Google. But to think about it, this club's been here since 1896. It's had 3,500 speakers. It's been around for 128 years. And as James says, in this time of great need, I was reflecting, right, that we've been here, and part of the founding principle of the Canadian Club is to bring together prime ministers, premiers, leaders of the day in various ways to send messages in times of war and in times of crisis. It's one of the founding principles of the Canadian Club. And I was thinking with real sadness, because I'm just going to call it out, I would say it's sadness. During that time, but for the Boer War, we've stood in times of war and crisis with our American friends. The First World War, we rallied them to come to the Second World War. Kosovo, we risked our own diplomats for theirs in Iran. When 9/11 hit, we put 7,000 of their people in our homes in a town of 10,000 in Gander, and we followed them at their request to Afghanistan to finish the job. So you reflect back on that 128 years. What's sad to me is during those times, we've always had that family beside us to face those times. And this is the first time that, not with them, but because of them, we're facing a difficult time. And I'll get over the sad, and I'm not mad at tariffs. Tariffs are going to hit us. That's all fair game. I am mad at the insults. I am mad at the 51st state stuff. I am mad at the indignities towards those who don't deserve it in our nation. And so I think we just call it out. And what's beautiful about this club is it allows these conversations to take place. And I want to celebrate the Canadian Club for being here all those years. And I'm an eternal optimist. And I think I express for all of us the sadness. And I also happen to believe this is going to get better from here. I happen to believe that common goodness and common beliefs will prevail. I think we're already seeing it. It's starting to make sense that the people that get the high exaction tariffs are the same people that have been in their sights for a while, and the people that are, getting a little fewer, start to resemble the Fortress North American, which is essential for this continent. Like, it's just common sense. And so I'm here with great optimism, but I think it would be inappropriate out of honor for this club not to just call it out that this is a sad period. And it's one human being with a few people around him. As someone who runs a global company, I remind our Canadian friends all the time, this is not about Americans. This is a voice with some people around him. And I remind our great Canadian partners, this is not about you. It's about a small collection of people that are singing this tune. And thank you for Canada Club for allowing us to speak our truths. Thank you for being here for us for 128 years. As James said, we got the greatest country in the world. So let's celebrate that and the role that Canada Club's played, and a big round of applause for those two things.
Okay, love that. Because I too am an eternal optimist. Needless to say, we're going to double click on the US thing again in a minute. But before we do that, James gave us a bit of an intro. But Blake, who are you? What shaped you? What drives you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people know. I grew up in Huntsville, Ontario. There's a real Huntsville mafia, by the way. I went around to the tables. There were at least 9 of you who claimed origins from my hometown, all whose last names I know. The benefit of growing up in a little town is something else. I don't think I did my kids a lot of justice by not having that experience, because everything is interactive. You get to, it's a microcosm of society. You know what the police do. You know what the counselors do. You know what the people who are working for the municipality do. And so the culmination of my life, having grown up with that front row seat and now getting to row OMERS, is a perfect round circle, because I get to serve the very people I grew up with, many of whom are my great friends. I still play lacrosse for my hometown. Many of them are my pensioners. So they have my back on the floor, which I increasingly need. I've got their back in their wallets and their future. And so I think the formation of a little town, we're all pretty baked pretty early, has helped me keep my sensibility, remind me what's important. It dovetails exactly with what I do today, which is a total privilege. And I've had some mentors, including a grandfather and a father, who, the family went up to that part of the world just after Confederation. They got a 100-acre land grant. If they cleared 15 acres and built a homestead, they could farm. And as it turns out, you can't farm a thing in Huntsville, Ontario. So we starved for, I don't know, a better part of 30 years, I'm told. And then we figured out you can farm trees and you could figure out you could farm rocks. So my grandfather built a lumber business that kept a lot of that community employed for 50 or 60 years. My father got into the aggregate business, and that was his cash cow to develop properties. So I grew up in the real estate business, wandering around in the back seat of his car from the time I could think. And so I got the real estate bug. And that's been most of my career, is the real estate space. So it's been founded on a little town, pretty low ego, lots of community spirit, entrepreneurs who fundamentally believed in tomorrow, who had the bug to go make a difference in their community in the best way they could. So I think that's been foundational to who I am and what I do today.
Let's come back to the markets, because it has been a wild number of weeks, and all the things that you've talked about in terms of the tariff threats and the insults and all the stuff. But you are the CEO of a Canadian pension plan. You've got pensioners to think about. What are you saying to your pensioners? How are you feeling right now? How's your team feeling? And what are you saying to your pensioners?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling quite good. First of all, OMERS is 62 years old. It's paid pensions on time and has planned for 62 years. It's had moments of difficulty. It's had great moments of strength, including in the last 4 years. We've averaged above 8%, which has been outpunching most of the funds around the world. So I like the way we're positioned. And my assurance to the pensioners is, the one thing I've learned about pensions, and some of our actuarial people are here who know more in their baby finger how to do the math than I ever will, is that they don't care who Trump is, they don't care who wins the election on the 28th of this month, they don't care what's happening in geopolitics. They don't know what inflation is, or stagflation, or interest carry, or what's happening to the bond markets. The pensions just know they need to get paid. And so all I know is that's what they know, and that's our job. So I feel comfortable we're going to get through it. And our book, just for fun, OMERS today, we have 1,000 employers in 444 municipalities, 640,000 members, about 30 big unions and associations. At any given time, we have about 2,700 employees directly for us, 1,700 at Oxford, 1,000 at OMERS, about 100,000 indirectly, including James, Bruce Power, and the like. And then we have, when you look around the world, at any given day, $35 billion in credits and private and public credit product. Cal, who runs that group, is here today. We have about $25 billion in equities today, which is, as a percentage of our book, the smallest it's ever been, because in anticipation of noise, we really brought down our equity book to be defensive in this time frame, which now looks quite prophetic. We have 30 big infrastructure assets, 25 big private equity assets, through Oxford, 850 real estate assets. We have 100 bets on growth and ventures, many of which are Canadian startups that we've been able to get behind and believe in. We have 10 global offices in 14 time zones. So it's a pretty complex place. And by the way, when you have a family that big, and some of my board members are here, I tell them all the time, when you have a family that big, I can guarantee you there will not be a day when we don't have issues, and there will not be a day that we don't do extraordinarily terrific things. And oh, by the way, the only thing the press care about, and I know some of you are here, are the ones that have issues. We'll talk about that after. Some of you are online, we know this. I always liken it to my hometown, to our board, and they've been really good at understanding. I say, listen, when I grew up down the street, there were 17 Payne children. And at any given time, I can guarantee you 3 were in jail, and 3 were getting in fights, and 3 were doing other undesirable things. 3 were captains of teams, making it into the big schools, torchbearers of the community. And then there was this other group. And I'm always going to have 3 Payne children here, and I'm always going to have 3 superstars here. And my main focus running this empire is to focus on the middle and keep them out of the jail and try to get them to captain teams. And the board have been really, and every time now when we have a problem somewhere and the press want to amplify it, the board go, that's one of the Payne kids, right? I go, let's spend some time on it, but let's not dwell on it. So when I look at our enterprise today, and I think this may surprise many of you, I actually feel pretty good about tariffs in and of themselves. Because of our 30 big infrastructure companies, 2 have direct impact from cross-border tariffs in some form, or there will be regulation that will be antisocial to those businesses because they reside in the U.S. But 2 of 30, but a fraction of that overall book. When I look at our 25 big infrastructure assets, 22 are sort of business-to-business, intra-nation, Canada, United States, and so I'm not terribly worried about tariffs and the implications of cross-border diminution in margins or profits. When I look at our equity book, we're all going to get hit, right? You can't avoid it. It's just a reality. The equity markets will remain volatile. Why? Because people in business need certainty. We are getting provided with anything but certainty. And so by definition, equity markets are going to continue to be volatile for the foreseeable future. Fortunately for us, it's 18% of our portfolio, the smallest amount in 62 years. Fortunately for us, we've kept $14 billion of liquid capital to endure through tough times. Fortunately for us, and we've learned the hard way, we have very little hedged product, so we're not going to get cash calls if the Canadian dollar drips, which it did in 2020. That we're not entirely unhedged, but it's not going to kill the golden goose if we get a monumental cash call for security. And so when I look at our portfolio, I feel quite positive. And I know when the market's dipped, we've loaded up on the greatest equities. Why? Because if you get a great equity, and I'm a quality investor, quality people, quality strategies, quality assets, with a great dividend, and it's now 30% cheaper than it's been for the last 2 years, it's time to play. So we were really, really active last Monday at the bottom of the market, like really active, with the board's support. And I don't know whether those securities return by December 31st. I don't know. But do I know that they will be, over a sustained period of time, great assets for us to hold through cycles? We're a long-term investor. 100%, I believe it to be true. We bought these assets for a fraction of what they were trading at last year. So from that standpoint, will we have hiccups? For sure. Do we have some pain children? For sure. Can more tariffs cause us more grief? 100%. We are on our toes. We are, as James said, focused on the things we can control. Now, having said that, what I worry about is not all that. It's about what happens with sustained periods of low growth, what happens with high periods of inflation, what happens with stagnation on the doorstep for most Western democratic nations as we speak, and what happens to the cost of funds when that happens. So generally, for businesses, spending's down, CapEx is down, people are concerned. Generally for consumers, same is true. We're seeing it in our malls. We're starting to see it in our hotels. So that general malaise that'll run through the river, as a prudent business person, we worry about. The direct impact of tariffs, as I said at the beginning, the thing that's most offensive to me is not trying to defend their economic turf, but it's the way in which they've done it, including the castigations of our good people.
Okay. And I did actually watch your AGM, so I know that you certainly have communicated a lot of confidence to your pensioners, and that, I think, resonated for the folks that were there.
And we're a long-term plan. You know, we're a quarter's 25 years. It's not a quarter. Will we lose money this quarter? My CFO's here. I'll probably go to jail if I tell you the truth. But yeah,
you don't have to say.
I mean, it's a difficult year so far. Will this Republican regime want the markets in November and December to close in an incredibly volatile or low way and have every business close their books with a bad or negative mark-to-market? I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of religion in the last quarter of this year to get some equities rolling. So listen, I think it's too early to call right now. But will we pay pensions on time and as planned, as we have for 62 years? 100%. We will find a way.
Question from the audience. You touched on asset mix, so let's go to asset mix. There's been a lot of talk in Canada about whether the Canadian pension plans are spending enough money in Canada, investing enough money in Canada. Some say more than enough, based upon our share of global GDP. Some say not nearly enough, and this is part of the wealth creation of Canada.
Yeah, surprise question. like everywhere we go. Sometimes not so gentle. Yeah, listen, and James could have given this speech. You know, our money is not my money. It's not my board's money. It's not the federal government's money. It's not the provincial government's money. It's my members' money. And as a fiduciary, job number one is to make sure that we have an asset mix that works for them and their known liabilities at a reasonable discount rate, eliminate losses, maximize our risk-adjusted returns. That's our job. So then the question is, should you put more in Canada? Today, we're about 20% Canada. We're about 55 United States. We'll call it 15 Europe and 5 to 10, depending on how you look at it, in Asia-Pac, primarily Australia with a little sprinkling of India and some equities from that region. So that's our global footprint. We have an asset mix that has been really thoughtful in terms of you know, a lot of science and some judgment in terms of how we ought to arrange our equities and our credits and our various private food groups. We're really comfortable with it. Do we stay nimble? Of course we do. Do we identify trends? What's a business plan? Is what am I great at? How do I get in the way of a trend given limited resources? So we're on our toes to employ capital where we see fit. So we're nimble. As it relates to Canada, there is lots of criticism about the plans. And some of my dear friends from the other plans are here, and thank you for supporting today, and they're our great partners. It's exacted at a few plans more than others. I can only speak to OMERS. At 20% of the portfolio, we own almost 50% of Bruce Power, 31% of the power supply of Ontario. We own TerraNet, which is Ontario's land registry system. In this city alone, Yorkdale, Scarborough Town Centre, Square One, all with partners. We own the three of the 5 best office buildings. If Brookfield are here, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, 3 out of 5 of the best office buildings in Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver. And if you need space, talk to us. We own Banff Springs Hotel, Jasper Park Lodge, Shadow Lake Louise. We own the Grand Hyatt. If you haven't been to the 17th floor, take your family there, spend lots of money. So we are a poster child for investing in this country. We own the best securities in the country. I have my friend here from RBC who's been a lifetime friend. We own, and the same is true of all the banks, all, by the way, who are here today, and God bless you for your support. And so I make no apology. In fact, I'm incredibly proud of our footprint. Now, having said that, and by the way, if you were a Martian, when Canada today is 2% of the GDP of the globe, US is 26%. Of the 12 countries we invest in, the US is actually almost 60% of the GDP of those 12 countries, and Canada is 4%. So as an allocator of capital, would it make sense to have 4 in Canada and 60 in America? Maybe. We don't. We have 20% today in Canada because we have a home court advantage. We like the currency. We have deep relationships. We've been here for 62 years, and we're totally committed to this country. Having said all that, more than ever in my life, I want to do more in this country, and so does our board, and that is all things being equal. Can we not find an opportunity? Not because the government pushes us. The government has no clout to tell us what to do. It makes for fun discourse in papers, and it makes for fun articles for particularly some securities brokers to play their own book and say we ought to be investing more in their securities so we can buy a stranger's common equity and they can go buy a place in Florida. Like the math doesn't actually add up with some of the complaints. But the truth is, we are very committed to this country. We have our accounting team, our favorite accounting firms here, our favorite law firms here, our favorite banks here, many of our partners here, many of our dear friends here. Please know that we are game on Canada, and we are game on Canada in as big a way as possible, provided we match our fiduciary obligation for this country. And that's not in the moment, it's long term. But we want to do more, we should do more, because we do think we can get the necessary yield, and to your point, our 640,000 people reside here. So I think everybody's starting to get a Canadian advantage refrain, at least. Now, where are the opportunities? We haven't bid on a federal infrastructure deal in 15 years. There's been one to speak of. Now the province is finally unlocking some opportunities to do it provincially. Very few. Australia got it, Canada didn't, or at least believed that our cost of funds being greater than their cost of funds, they should monetize things. Canada wasn't on that program. So it also takes conditions in this country, and maybe the dialogue's changing for us to do more. And when those conditions present themselves, let's go.
Okay. Challenge to all the bankers out there. And maybe I can tie two things together. So no infrastructure projects of any meaning that you've been a part of for 15 years. However, I hear that there's going to be a tunnel under the 401. And one of the questions here is, what's your vision for Toronto?
I'm glad I didn't have to comment on the tunnel. I'm glad you
Dang, I went
mentioned
too fast,
it.
Marcel.
You mentioned it, and then you went to a real question. Listen, and this is part of my message to everybody. At this time of great need, we should all get behind Toronto. You know, Councillor Carroll's here today, which I totally appreciate. I think our mayor is doing the best she can. You know, it's a difficult hand to get dealt, you know, managing this city with all of the, you know, comings and going. What you might have voted politically, once somebody's elected, get behind them. Because why would I want anything but our city to excel and, you know, and do extraordinarily well? And so she has formulated, Councillor Carroll's on that with me and some of you in this room, a tariff committee to look at what we do. They will get as much of my time, as much of my energy as possible. I want our city to succeed. I think it has a fighting chance. I think it's an incredibly, and we do business all over the world, particularly Oxford. They've been incredible, way more user-friendly than is advertised. We've been able to unlock outsized returns in this city relative to others, which is not always advertised. So I fundamentally believe in this city, and as OMERS, we better get behind this city. I was at the legislature yesterday in Ontario for the opening of the 44th Parliament of the province of Ontario, because I have to get behind the province of Ontario. And whoever's elected on the 28th, because I know them both reasonably well, we will get behind them 100%. Why? Because we want our city to succeed. We want our province to succeed. We want our country to succeed. And my message to all of us at this time is, can't we get behind whoever it is, put down our jerseys, roll up our sleeves, fight for them in the best way we know how? And that's certainly what we're going to do for OMERS.
And that, yes, thank you. That is a great segue to, as James mentioned, what I would call your love letter to Canada. It had tremendous warmth and also some tough love. The word finitiative you mentioned. First, spell it.
Finish, I-A-T-I-V-E. Finish,
Okay.
Finitiative, as in initiative.
Again, finitiative.
Yeah.
For realsies, did your dad really use that word growing up?
No, Dad claims he invented the word, but again, if you Google it, this club is a whiskey. You can Google it. There are others who have come up with that language, but without any exaggeration, when I was 5 years old, Dad, who was a small business person who was always bent on getting things done, would always say, everybody has initiative. I'm tired of it. Initiative is the easy part. You can start stuff. Get it over the finish line. Finitiative. And true story, my daughter, when she was 5, her grandfather, my dad, who does hold the World Book of Records, like we have the plaque at home, it's certified at 93 for water skiing at 93. So he's teaching her how to water ski up on our little lake outside of Huntsville. And she tries to get up, down, 5 times. I said, Camille, do you want to get out of the boat? She goes, no, not getting out of the boat. And I said, how come? Hutchesons don't quit. Finitiative. So he's taught the kids the word. I try to live it. If we ever start something, we finish it. We have that rule around Oxford and OMERS too. Let's get stuff over the finish line. What should get measured is results, outcomes, not words, not superlatives, but outcomes. And we have a very, very high results cultured enterprise, and a lot of it stems from that word.
And for those who haven't read the letter, and I certainly would encourage you to go and read that letter, in the context of Canada and now, why did you seize on finitiative? What does it mean to you in this moment?
No, I just plagiarized badly from my father. I fundamentally think it's the time for that in this country. The best lesson I've learned, and our culture, and many of our team are here. Thank you for being here, team. I so appreciate it, as always. We talk about our culture being fiercely competitive and incredibly humble. We have to stay fiercely competitive. If we are not great at what we do, and if we cannot compete with the best of the best at what we do not have the right to invest our pensioners' money. And we have to be incredibly strategic, planful. We have to be focused. We have to, again, take on the things we can control. And if we cannot be incredibly or fiercely competitive, we shouldn't be at the table. And you have to stay incredibly humble, because the people we work for, on balance, make $40,000 a year. And we have a right to do well by them, come thick and thin, and that's the goal. And by the way, most of you in this room, you know it. When's the last time you weren't humble? You can drive home some days thinking you've got the world by the tail, and one phone call, somebody's quitting, or some ego's broken, or you lose a deal, or you got something that is just not sporting that happens to you, in your enterprise or in your personal life, and you were humbled in a nanosecond. So don't get cocky. Stay humble. You need to be humble, and you need to surround a team with humbleness, because, by the way, you're going to earn it, because you got a lot to be humble about, as Churchill used to say. Yeah.
I've got one more question for you, and then we're going to do a little lightning round.
Okay.
So we've established that you're a very proud Ontarian and a very proud Canadian. What are the 3 things that you feel Canada needs to do, not only to survive, but to thrive?
Yeah, I mean, we should celebrate our wins. We have so much to be positive about. You know, our banks are the envy of the world. Our pension plans are the envy of the world. We've got businesses, again, Brookfield, don't go to their buildings, but it's the envy of the world. You know, there are some amazing Canadian success stories. What does the press try to do? Every linear inch I get away from a couple of newspaper buildings and a couple of individuals, the pedigree of our business, our pension plan, and this nation gets better, because we are so hard on ourselves. So let's get behind our winners. Let's celebrate our successes. Let's stop hiding our light under a bushel. I would say, and it's not partisan, it's not about an individual, I would say we have to do a lot of the things that we haven't done in the last 10 years. I think relationships are essential. Business travels at the speed of trust. When we were in the Second World War trying to convince the US to come for the ride, the relationship between Mackenzie King and FDR was essential, both to keep Canada's sovereignty in check and also to bring that great nation along for the ride. Today, we've forgotten, I think, that relationships, not just inter-Canada, but extra-Canada, not just North America, but around the world, I think we need incredibly strong, positive relationships, because you never know when you need each other. Mulroney gave the eulogies at George H.W. Bush's funeral, and Reagan's, as a recollection of our Canadian standing as somebody whose handshake meant something. I think we've got to, you know, we've spent a lot of time on social policy in this country. We need an economic plan. And the last time I checked, if you don't have a plan, because all our businesses have them, why wouldn't we have an economic plan for the nation? Last time I checked, Yogi Berra said it best: if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably find out you're somewhere else. So we need a plan. You know, and then I think it's not my idea. I've seen increasingly the idea of the 4 Ds that Canada has to focus on. And the first is diversification of our resources, unlocking our critical minerals, figuring out where we have a competitive advantage. And this doesn't happen. If you don't start planting those seeds today, it'll take 10 to 15 years to get there. So we need diversification of our economy. We need to be deliberate about it. We need to stop getting in the way of our strengths. And I think if you want to get wealthy, put all your chips on one square. If you want to stay wealthy, diversify. I think the diversification of our resource base in this nation is critical. D number 1. D number 2 is defense. You know, part of the reason I think it makes me angry or sad when the US criticizes us for what's gone down is because it's partially true. You know, there are things where we have not been terrific allies. And we don't want to hear it, but, you know, somebody else has been washing the dishes and cutting the grass, and at some point that irritates the rest of the family. And I think we need to get active and figure it out, including when we can buy it in Canada, we should, and maybe we can give a lead order to the United States with their new shipbuilding empire. I don't know, but defense is, I think the second one. And the third is deficits. We gotta be thoughtful, and we gotta get our arms around it. A big part, and we can get into it if you want, or maybe not, but a big part of what you're seeing in the United States is all about their deficits. If you peel it back, what are they trying to do? They have this deficit cap conversation that's on the precipice for them. If they don't find new revenue streams, they got a problem, hence tariffs. If they don't find other additional savings, they got a problem, hence Doge. If they can't get the cost of money down, they got a problem, hence tank the equity markets so that you can probably clip some cheaper debt from the bond markets. That's the magic, mess behind this turmoil, is how they get to their debt. There's a lot straighter ways to get there, by the way, as they're finding out. because if you tank your equity markets and everybody runs for repatriation of their capital when they take home their bond money and works against you, right? And so you're seeing them go at it the wrong way. We need a strategy around it which will dovetail with productivity. And deregulation is the fourth. And I think Reagan said it best, right? If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. And we've done a lot of that in this country.
Yeah.
So we need to get at deregulation. We need to bring down trade barriers. We need to figure out how to help each other. We need a better tax regime to incentivize people, because this room isn't the enemy. Those are all ideas. And the final one is education to me. You know, right now we've got the federal government saying, by the way, you can't have, you know, we're going to cap your number of foreign students, and we have provincial governments capping tuition. And we probably have the greatest opportunity in our lifetime to bring the most attractive educators to this country, i.e. what's happening to Harvard, Columbia, Wharton, and the like. We have the best opportunity to attract the best students to this country. And just think, if our education system at this moment was world class, what we could do. So those are all things that I'm dreaming about, Tanya, and that and 50 cents will get you half a cup of coffee these days. But I do think they're all doable, and I do believe in the country, and I do believe we can get pieces of them.
I do think they're all doable, too. Okay, I promise you a lightning round.
Okay.
It's time for your hat.
Say it again?
It's time for your hat.
Oh, it's time for my hat. Where is my, oh, there it is. By the way, I wanted to wear this hat for the whole speech, and for a bunch of reasons. Those lights are bright on this head, but also because I think if you remember nothing else, it might be that I wore a hat at this esteemed club. But my dear friends... Made by a
Canadian company.
That's true. But my esteemed friends and colleagues told me no hats. So thank you for bringing it on. I appreciate it. I owe you something. Yeah.
Okay. I am
See, the cameras are coming.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody loves this part. No hat for me.
Look right here.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you could try and keep your answers to one word or something brief, as a lightning round is. One word to describe 2025 so far.
Sad.
Lacrosse or hockey?
Oh, that's two words. Lacrosse.
Well, no, you had to choose one. Lacrosse. Texting or calling?
I got one kid of each. So it depends on which one. Camille's a call and Trev's a text, so I'll go with that.
Okay. One essential, non-negotiable daily habit that you have.
I like the sensual one.
Wait a second, that's not what I said.
and it ain't daily.
One essential, non-negotiable.
My run in the morning.
Okay.
My run in the morning. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that back on track. If you could invest in one emerging technology that you think will be that will fundamentally reshape the next decade, what would it be?
Local bars. No, I think we're losing it. I think we need people.
Like the social fabric?
I think I think the more important than technology is getting human beings together, talking, building relationships. They can share their innovative and technological ideas, but I think the more we get human beings interacting with human beings and putting down the technology, the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that answer. If OMERS was a superhero, who would it be? That's a hard one.
Not CPPIB.
Oh. You know, a superhero, like Elastigirl or something.
Oh, man. And it has to be one word. I don't have a, it's a, people ask if it's a car, what would it be? And I have it as a RV, towing a car, towing a motorcycle, towing a boat, because it's not one thing. It is so far flung. So I'm lost to find one.
We'll take the car analogy.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice, and this is actually really directed at the students that are joining us here today, what's one piece of advice you'd give to young investors starting out in today's market?
Well, exactly what Donald Trump hasn't done, and that is do your homework before you throw spaghetti against the wall. There's no substitute for doing your homework. And the best advice I had when I was really young was when you're confronted with office politics that'll drive you crazy, or big P politics that'll drive you crazy, you do one thing, and that's you put your head down and you outwork everybody. And when you outwork everybody, everybody doesn't have to love you, but they will respect you. So if you are a deeply respected, hardworking person who does their homework, I like your odds.
Can I add one thing that really resonated for me from what you said earlier?
100%.
Quality, quality, quality.
Quality, quality, quality. Yeah, people lose sight of it. Oh my goodness. Quality people, quality plans, quality markets, quality assets, see through cycles. And as soon as you start to compromise any one of those things, when hard times hit, you feel it first and you feel it hard. And so when in doubt, quality.
What's one surprisingly useless talent or skill that you have that has absolutely no application to your role as CEO?
Oh man, how long you got?
I only want one.
You know, I'd have to go to lacrosse.
Okay.
This is my 27th year playing Masters. I have a tournament in 2 weeks. And the useless talent I have, I've been the captain for 15 years because I pay the team's fines. And not because I'm on the power play. So I keep my spot because I happen to love these people from my hometown, and I can pay the short money that it keeps the team together. Yeah.
Love that. One last question. When speaking to global investors, how do you answer why Canada, why now?
Our handshake, more than anything, means something. And it's a massive competitive advantage. If we jump in an airplane and we shake someone's hand, we're good for it. And I think it's a massive competitive advantage, more so today than ever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm getting the high sign. So Blake, thank you so much on behalf of the club. Thank you for being here the 6th time. Thank you for sharing a pretty unvarnished view of what's going on, and most importantly, the optimism for the future. I will remember quality, quality, quality. I will remember the 4 Ds. So it's really wonderful to have you here. I think the municipal employees of Ontario, their money is in good hands. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll just close quickly and invite you all to, we have a couple of great events coming up. So on the 23rd of April, we are hosting a panel to discuss Canada's Arctic future, which is also very important in this time. And then we touched a bit on Toronto. On April 30th, in an evening event, we are hosting a panel of speakers, including the City of Toronto's Chief Planner, to discuss how Toronto gets her mojo back. So we hope you will enjoy that. Again, please visit our website at canadianclub.org for all the information about our events. I want to say thank you again to Bruce Power, to KPMG, to Tories, and to RBC Capital Markets for sponsoring today's event. And thank you, as always, to our AV supplier, VBC Live, for hosting us today and for taking good care of us. So thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everybody.